Hi, this is Carolyn James with Holistic Campus, and today I'm with a founding practitioner, Amora Melchizadek. How are you, Amora?
I'm very good. How are you, Carolyn?
I'm great. So it's so interesting. I know that you're a contemporary shaman, and I would love for you to explain a little bit about what that is.
Okay, well, within indigenous societies, the shaman role tends to be handed down from family and kept within the family.
Ah,
Um, a contemporary shaman, from my perspective, is someone that's come into this field and so has a much broader perspective of how the tools of the indigenous shaman can be used to benefit everyone.
ah.
So I pull in a few different sources of energy work that go in with core shamanism, and that's why I give it the name contemporary.
Well, there you go. So I know you do a lot with protection as well, which is fascinating. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, pretty much the core work that I'm involved with is practitioners that are experiencing problems with one thing or another would come to me. My life path has taken me down a route where I kind of have taken on the darker energies in a sense of I'm the night and we're going to put an end to it. So the areas which people can often have a lot of trouble with is pretty much on the psychic front, or with meeting entities that have either invaded them or are playing tricks around the home. It's these kind of areas that I get a lot of work coming to me to sort out.
So when you say healers, so obviously when healers are at the levels they're at, they could become under attack, yes?
Well, the more a person shines, the more obvious they become to darker forces.
Okay.
And particularly from the lower astral level, they like to inflict themselves upon people. So what can happen is the occasional act of transference. So if someone's treating a client and there's one of these lower astral entities and they see an opportunity to jump into a practitioner, they might not be immediately aware of that situation, but afterwards they recognize that they have a problem. And basically I'm the person to come to, and we send that entity packing.
So what other kind of things are some of the practices that you do to help that?
First of all, there's the whole psychic side. And surprisingly, some of the psychic stuff that people can suffer from is not necessarily consciously directed at them.
Oh, interesting. What do you mean?
So within this bracket, at the end of any relationship, there tends to be a much broader cord connecting people that have been in romantic relationships. And whilst both parties may well be happy that they've come through the relationship and are trying to move on, whenever one party thinks of the other, there's like a pulling of this cord, which causes a disturbance in the other person that feels that thought.
Oh.
And of course, if both parties are wanting to move on, it's an unsatisfactory set of circumstances, because there's like a seesaw thing going on and the pulling from one person to the other. And basically, they just want to get on with their new life. In fact, any time that there's been a romantic connection with someone, the cord that exists can create problems because they get a new partner come into their life, and particularly if they're very sensitive, then they can feel that there's still a kind of energy flow that exists there. So what I do is something called tie cutting. And what this enables is for a clean severing of any past relationships.
Gotcha.
And the wording that is used is such that any positive connection that remains with someone is not damaged. Because it may be, you know, that you've been in a marriage for a number of years, there are children involved and what have you, and you don't want to damage any friendship.
Right.
So all that's happening is that I would be cutting the energetic connection between the two that is no longer wanted.
Okay, and that's in a situation that's happy. So what about if there's a situation that isn't so happy? Or can someone actually have those ties and manipulate them?
There are some arenas, and I'm just going to broadly call it black magic.
Okay.
And this is where someone seeks to exert an influence over someone else against their will. So they can either do that by using thought forms, or they can place psychic hooks in. And there are a number of other methods which they can use to consciously attack someone. It tends to impact people where they end up feeling yucky, and they're not necessarily knowing where it's coming from, but they'll be a bit grouchy. They might even see like black shapes out the corner of their eye. They might be experiencing headaches. Very often a sign of this kind of thing going on is there's a draining of the energy, so they feel exhausted. Yeah, and there are things that can be done. So like once it's identified that there is any form of psychic attack going on, there are various techniques which is going to help someone. Even to a point of if you know you're going to be going into a situation where you might be vulnerable, you can even preempt things by wearing protection before you go into those situations. So we can do that, and I can also have a look at any areas of damage that have been caused by any psychic attack, and that can be addressed as well. So there's a healing side to it that's also available.
So when someone comes to you, do they know why they're coming to you? Are they drawn to you for a specific reason, and then you really have to explore? Because obviously, law of attraction, who's going to come to you will come to you. But do they know why?
Most people have some kind of idea why they're coming to me.
Yeah.
Not everyone will be fully aware of the circumstances that surround what's actually going on for them. I mean, I can give an example from a recent workshop that I was holding. Someone had come along, and it was a psychic protection workshop, and I was sensing intuitively that there was an entirely different matter that was causing this person to be quite subdued, had a worry look on their face, and then I noticed that there was like clouds of smoke that was coming out of her aura. And I'd set the room up so it was protected, and that anything untoward that did arise during the workshop would be removed. And what I was actually seeing with my psychic eye was some entities that they themselves were not happy with the protection that had been put in place in the room. And this was getting things moving within her, and she was feeling stuff bubbling up, and she wanted to talk about some other areas which she thought that
she needed
she
to.
would be considered as a lunatic if she mentioned them. And then at one point I just said, look, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I'm sensing that there's something that's happened in your past where you've been identified as having a special gift, and that this has resulted in at least one kind of abduction event, and I think that we could be talking about two separate kinds of abduction events.
Wow.
And she just burst into tears, and she says, yeah, we can talk about it later.
Oh.
And so then we were able to go into the whole MK Ultra side of things, where there's interventions where there's mind control going on. And that's another side of the kind of work that I get involved with.
Wow. Oh, and she needed to talk to you about that. Gee. Wow. So, well, I know you and I are going to do a little bit of work together, but is there anything else you wanted to share to?
Yeah. I mean, because of my own interesting history of what I've moved through in terms of my own education, etc. I'm a bit of a hoarder of tools that I find can help in certain situations. So one of the things that has occurred on my path is that the crystal kingdom, and in particular crystal skulls, have decided that they wish to work with me. So there's a number of Neolithic jade crystal skulls and other totemic items that were carved in Mongolia about 5,000 years ago that I'm in possession of.
Oh, wow.
Now, these are very powerful things, and they're often very protective for people that look after them. So there are some that can be used purely as protectors, but others have different attributes in the same way that different kinds of crystals will have different qualities to them. So I have a collection of them that I work with, but I also have some modern ones because the clear quartz crystal is an excellent recorder. And I don't know if you've heard about the 13 crystal skulls that they believe were once held at Teotihuacan in Mexico.
Oh, yes, I have.
And my own belief through working with the crystal skull sphere is that this effectively was a library of information that was held within the crystal skulls. And that wisdom that they held originated in the times of Atlantis. So one of the things that I've discovered through working with the crystal skulls is that they feel that they have a role for assisting human consciousness to raise. But the vibration at which they hold their information is not one that is easily accessible by most humans, but there is a way in which they can communicate a little bit more. And what they've asked me to do is, wherever possible, to hold groups of people, workshop of any kind, have them present, and then have sacred sound played. and then the sacred sound is being used by the crystal skulls to hop onto, and that is much more readily absorbed by us as human beings.
Oh.
And so then the information that they have for individuals is then fed down through the unconscious. So very, very often people that have encountered the skulls that I work with are given information through their dreams.
That's fascinating.
Now then, what I will do is I'll just give you a quick look at some of the things that I use and that I have in my possession. And I'm going to introduce you to this little chap, who's not quite so little.
Oh my.
He's called Corathon. There you are.
There we go, Amora. That's it. Wow. Wow.
So he's this kind of size.
Wow.
And he's one that I like to use in a group setting. He's very good at space holding, and he was one that was in place during the psychic workshop that I talked about earlier. And he was making sure that what was coming out of that person that was getting things bubbling up, he was ensuring that what was coming out was going out of the premises.
Ah. So how do these make their way into your world? How does something like that find you?
This is a long story.
Tell us some other stuff while you're talking then.
Basically, I decided that I was going to do some work along the Michael and Mary lines and doing work at the nodal points. And this was going to be a journey working with the balancing of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Someone heard what I was going to be involved with, and they made a phone call to me, and they said, I'm in possession of a crystal skull, and it says that it wants to come with you to be engaging in the work that you're doing on the nodal points. And ever since then, the crystal skulls haven't left me alone.
They found a friend.
So that's briefly kind of.
That's perfect, Amora.
I'll just have a little look around the room. So in here we have some of the crystal bowls. Here's the altar with crystals. This is the tool that I use for extraction purposes, which is a wand of sorts, and again there's quite a bit of crystal involved with it.
Well, that's a wow.
And here is the drum that I use for taking people on a journey. If you want,
with that drum, I think I love that drum.
Sorry, say again.
I said I think I have a picture of you on your profile with that drum. I love that drum.
Yes, you do indeed. Would you like to have a little sound of it?
Yes, please. Yes. Nice. Thank you. You got all kinds of fun stuff in there.
It's a lovely sound. I mean, I know that a lot of people that use drums like the hide drums, but I like to work in sweat lodges, and I'm also from England originally, so if you're out in that kind of cold, wet weather, then hide drum is very difficult to maintain, and the synthetic drum like that, it just holds its sound whatever conditions you're in, so that's why I go with that one.
And that's why you live in the middle of the ocean right now.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, thank you for sharing all of that. And I know you and I are going to do a little work in it a little bit. That was
I'm just plugging in again, make sure we, there we go. Okay.
Sounds good.
So is there anything else that you wanted to kind of ask about?
No,
what
I
get up to?
no, I think that was a great overview. I think I think it gave people a really good idea of what it is that you do. And of course, there's so much more to it, but at least that's a start. Yeah. Okay, so we'll say goodbye, thank you, and I'll see you in 2 minutes on the other side.
Okay.
Okay.